If there was one type of comment made on my videos during the past couple of months that I somewhat wrongfully ignored, then it's some of you out there asking when are we going to focus more on the business side of things in regard to bringing our device to market. And the answer to that is now. In my previous video, I asked all of you to submit your proposals for the name of the device, and honestly, I was blown away by the amount of great ideas all of you have come up with, and while I haven't had the time to actually count them, I'm pretty sure it's in the hundreds. Well, we wrote all the ones we like the most down, and we're currently looking at around 5 candidates, giving each of them some time to simmer before we make the final decision. That being said, I did have my favorite of the bunch that immediately sounded right in my head, and that name is Nucleus. However, as all of you know by now, the brand name is called Mono, and well, I hope you see where this is going. Take Mono, add the word nucleus next to it, and you get something that sounds like a type of herpes. And while talking about names, the answer to a surprisingly large number of you that suggested it is also no. We will not be calling our router Routy McRouterface either. Okay, to the topic at hand. As many of you know, we're a venture capital funded startup, and as such, especially in these early stages, rely heavily on external financing, which is about to run out. But we're not quite there yet. We still have a couple of months worth of runway left, which means that now is the perfect time to start pitching for the next round. Actually, scratch that. The perfect time was most likely months ago, but due to a couple of setbacks we've encountered with our PCBs, we simply didn't have the capacity or time to do both things at the same time and do them well, so now we'll have to do. Now, you might be asking why bother with our own PCB in the first place, given that thousands of companies out there are perfectly capable of producing one and we could just easily outsource this part completely? Well, 2 reasons really. First, if we bought a pre-made board, of which there are actually many, then we'd need to do a whole lot more compromises than we already had to do in our own board. But that's actually not the worst part. The worst part are margins. You see, during my research earlier this year, I received a number of catalogs from different PCB vendors, and whenever a board came with a 10 gigabit port, the price of it pretty much skyrocketed to uncomfortable numbers that would, if we added our margin on top, extend way past the threshold of even the most generous members of my audience. Let me give you an example. ASUS, the company you're probably familiar with, has a subsidiary called ASUS Store, which on the consumer level is more focused on network attached storage. But on the industrial B2B level, they also have a wide array of PCBs you can get, pretty much for any purpose or application. But each of those boards cost, say, around $500, not counting any enclosure, packaging, or cables. So add that on top and a sufficient margin so that our company can make money in the first place, and we're likely looking at a router that would cost well over $1,000. Yeah. I mean, I was given an option for a custom-made solution, meaning that they would develop a board just for us and at a lower price per unit at that, but in that case, I'd have to sign a contract in which I would vouch we'd purchase at least 5,000 units in the first year, and well, we're a startup and that was simply a risk I was not willing to take. Which brings us to the second reason as to why we decided to develop our own board, and that reason is called intellectual property. When it comes to building things, regardless if it's software or hardware, you always aim to strike a balance as to what you should outsource as opposed to what you should build yourself. Take our non-existent website, for example. When the time comes, and that time will come pretty soon actually, most likely in the first quarter of the next year, someone will have to build it. And chances are that someone will be me, especially because I have a 15-year web development career under my belt and have developed sites that are orders of magnitude more complex than a sales website for a router. However, if at the time we'll be facing other more pressing issues, to which we'll come shortly, then I'll simply reach out to someone from my fairly wide network of web developers and have them do it for us. When it comes to our router, we decided pretty early on that the PCB will serve as the foundation of our business, likely for years to come, given the focus is on 10 gigabit performance, which is only now starting to be more and more present in your normal household as opposed to the business customers, some of which have already had it for a couple of years now. Not to mention that we want to see our devices deployed worldwide, and for that we want to build a great reputation, which in my opinion is achieved by 3 factors: documentation, customer support, and user experience. Now, none of these I can show you just yet in any capacity really, which I hope is understandable at this point, but just in case it's not, let me say it out loud. What I'm sharing with you in this video is not where we currently are, but where we want to be, say, in 2 years from now. Let's call this our vision. And our vision is to manufacture a 10 gigabit capable router that will be stable, reliable, durable, well supported, well documented, open source, and finally well designed both in terms of the physical device itself as well as the user interface that you'll use to interact with the device. And it's the last point of this vision that we need your help with right now, and could say is the whole point of today's video. Now that we've designed the prototypes, and I'm not talking about the visual design here, but the components, materials, and the construction of the physical device itself, let's assume, at least in the context of this video, that we have stability, reliability, and durability covered. The next 3 parts, so building support, writing documentation, and open sourcing the code, will be our focus during the first half of 2025, and when the time comes, we will of course share all the progress with you right here on this channel. However, we need your help when it comes to user experience, or should I say, your user experience. You see, in order to raise the next round of funding, we have to present the whole project to potential investors, and we already started reaching out to those in our network that we already know. And the first thing they usually expect to see from a company that's fundraising is called a pitch deck. Fancy name aside, a pitch deck is usually just a simple PowerPoint presentation that tells a story of the problem you're trying to solve, why you think it's worth solving in the first place, who you're solving it for, how long it will take to solve it, and finally, how much will that solution cost to be brought to market. And when I say a simple presentation, I mean that in the terms of size, because it shouldn't take more than about 3 to 4 minutes to present to anyone really, not just the investors. And after those couple of minutes, they should have a good understanding of what it's all about, at least well enough to pique their interest. This will actually not be the first pitch deck I made regarding this project. I've already done one for our previous round in which we raised $300,000, and I even presented it on this channel earlier this year. Link to it up here. But obviously my channel has grown significantly over this period, and thanks to all of you who leave tons and tons of constructive feedback, well, you could say I've gotten much better at understanding our target market, which also means it makes sense to prepare a new pitch deck for the upcoming round, and here's where you all come in. As I said, the one aspect of our device that has the higher number of unknowns, which we'd like to clarify with all of you and should be a part of the pitch deck, is the user experience when it comes to the interface you use to interact with and configure your router. We want to know what you currently use, how happy or unhappy you are with it, what features you find invaluable, and so on and so forth. I won't go into all the details here. In fact, I will share nothing just to make sure I don't influence or introduce any bias into your answers. All I ask is that you, once you're done watching this video and clicking that beautiful like button, scroll down to the description of the video, click on the link to the Google form we've set up, and take a couple of minutes to fill it out as thoroughly as possible. Additionally, I also have a question that I would like you to answer here in the comments down below. Reason being that the more comments and likes the video gets, the bigger the audience it attracts, and as a result, more people will fill out the form. This, in turn, will help us getting a clearer picture as to how people interact with their routers, or more importantly, how can we make things better when it comes to our device. Or, to put it in the context of fundraising, what will be the most optimal way to spend the money that we'll be trying to raise in the upcoming months? And here's the question that you should answer in the comments below. What is the one thing, when it comes to your home router obviously, that annoys you the most? Nothing even comes close. You know, the one thing that every now and then makes you want to just take your existing home router and smash it against the wall? That one. Thank you for taking your time in advance. I'm very much looking forward to reading through all of your answers. And of course, once this part is over, I will present all of my findings in a dedicated video, most likely sometime in December. But for now, Tomasz from Slovenia, signing out.